President Obama on the air just hours after the twin explosions in Boston to reassure the nation. He also called the governor of Massachusetts and the mayor of Boston to offer support, making it clear that his administration is mobilizing its full resources to help in the investigation and provide security as well. For more on the White House response, let's bring in David Drucker, senior editor at Roll Call. David, we are going to be hearing from this president in just about 20 minutes. The White House has scheduled some kind of a statement from the president at 11:30 Eastern time. We don't know, obviously, what he will say, perhaps more of the kind of thing we heard yesterday. A president has to wear many hats, has to shoulder a lot of responsibilities, but being the leader of an emotional and frazzled nation at a time like this has to be among the most weighty. How's he doing?
I think he's doing pretty good. The president hasn't always hit the mark in situations like this, near incidents that didn't happen. This time I thought he hit it perfectly. He showed determination. He assured Americans that individuals or groups would be brought to justice. This is something that people want to hear. He also didn't talk about things that he didn't know to be in evidence. And the one thing you don't want to do when you're president of the United States is be wrong and talk about things that turn out not to be true, because it causes a real crisis of confidence within the public. And so I think that everything he did yesterday was important. I thought it worked, and I thought that's what Americans want from their president at times like this. And I expect we'll hear more of the same in terms of his determination to get to the bottom of this. And any update that he can give, given that federal law enforcement officials are, on the job and after what's happening.
Yeah, there has been so much misinformation already. At the news conference this morning, they had to dispel the notion that there were other bombs found and disarmed, other explosives that did not go off. Only two. Both of them did go off, we learned. That's the kind of thing that you say the president has to be especially careful to stay away from.
He does, and I know there was some criticism, not much of it, but there was some criticism that the president wouldn't label it an act of terrorism and things of that nature. But really, what's important is that everything that comes out of the president's mouth is correct, is right, and that shows both Americans and people around the world, governments and groups around the world, that he's in command of the situation. It's important for him to show command, and that's something he did very well. When a president doesn't do that, it exacerbates matters. It makes people even more worried than they might be, and it starts people wondering whether or not the FBI, the ATF, any other federal law enforcement officials, which the president is ultimately in charge of, whether they know what they're doing. And so I think this is why it's important to be careful. It's also important to show a level of determination, to show that you're going to hunt people down, because that's what Americans expect, and I thought the president did that. And so, judging by what we heard yesterday, judging by, I thought, the very smart words from top members of Congress in both parties as they approach this, they want to know all the facts, and this is the kind of response that Americans really want to see from their government at times like this.
Also important, too, I think, for a president, and it's a fine line to walk, to encourage Americans to, go about your daily lives. Don't hide in a hole, because that's exactly what the terrorists want. And if we give up our freedoms, if we give up our lifestyle, they've won.
Well, you make a good point, John, in that, on the one hand, we don't want to go into a hole and hide. On the other hand, we want to show proper deference to what happened and the people that were injured and killed and traumatized. But I think it's important, and I think what Americans really expect, given that we're a country that wants to be free and wants to be open, is that we got to get back to work. And, we hire our politicians, lawmakers, we hire the FBI and related agencies to figure out what happened and what went wrong and try and prevent it from happening again. But what you don't want to see is the country shut down.
Right.
And so you're right. It's always a fine line. I think so far, this president, and in fact, just like the last one, is doing a pretty good job of that.
No paralysis, especially in Boston. That's for sure. David Drucker, thank you.